My name is Evan Taucher, and today we're going to be focusing on scales and their relationship to our instrument and how practicing them can help us understand our instrument better. Now, when we hear about scales, we always hear that we should practice them and that knowing all of them is a really good thing, but a lot of times we don't stop and think, why do we practice scales? And the answer to that is, scales are like the dictionaries to our melodies. Scales are ultimately one of the pathways to discovering all the different capabilities that our instrument has. And speaking of capabilities, guitar is really unique because on most instruments, say the piano, in one octave you can play a C major scale just by playing all 8 of the white keys. But you cannot play that same octave any other different way on the piano. It's only locked into that one spot, and then you're in a new octave. But on the guitar, there's tons of ways to play the exact same scale on different places on the fingerboard, including in the same octave. For instance, I can play a C major scale all in one position, like at the 5th fret, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Or I can play that same scale all on one string. In this situation, maybe the 2nd string, starting on the C on the 1st fret. And it will have a totally different sound. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Or instead of starting on the 5th fret of the 3rd string or the 1st fret of the 2nd string, we could start on the 4th string, 10th fret, and get that same C and split up this scale between a bunch of different strings. So we can play C here, and D on the 3rd string, and open E if we want. Then we could play the F on the 3rd string, the G on the same string, the A on the 2nd, the B on the 1st, and then finish with the C on the 1st. Having all of these possibilities is ultimately a really good thing because it gives us so many options and so many different colors to explore on our instrument. But it also can be very confusing because there's no straightforward answer. Where are you going to start that C major scale? Where are you going to start that melody? So the approach I'm going to walk you through here today is going to help you obtain a higher level of understanding of your instrument. And then afterwards, I'm going to share with you a few technical tips to help you when you're practicing these scales so they become more efficient and quick. Let's try using those same positions that we played the C major scale in and apply it to an actual melody that I think we all know, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which contains little fragments of a scale as well. So we're going to start at this 5th position C major scale, which is actually the easiest place to play this melody. We're going to start on this low C, on the 5th fret of the 3rd string, and then we start out with this octave leap on the C on the 8th fret of the 1st string. So we're going to play this. Right, so after playing C to C, I went to B, then G, A, B, C. So that's 4, 1, 3, 4. Now, let's take that same melody and play it all on the 2nd string, going from this C all the way up to the C on the 13th fret. So in this way, this large distance we have to travel actually really imitates the human voice when we go and jump that octave. I won't sing for you now, but I think you can imagine how we sing Over the Rainbow. So we're going to start at this 1st fret and then make this big shift up to the 13th fret, really imitating that vocal melody. And then we're going to play the rest of the melody, which is B, G, A, B, C. Right, so I'm just playing 8, 10, 12, 13, right, to complete that melody. So now we're going to take that same melody, and just like we did with the 3rd C major scale, we're going to start it on the 4th string, 10th fret, and we're going to split it up between as many strings as we possibly can. So we're going to start with this octave leap, the 10th fret, to the 8th fret of the 1st string, and then we're going to play the B on the 2nd string, then the G on the 3rd string, 12th fret, and then the A and B on the 2nd string, and then finishing with the C on the 1st string, 8th fret. Something like this. So as you can see, those 3 different ways of playing the melody are quite different, and there's actually a ton more options. As a little exercise for yourself, try to take another melody that you're quite familiar with and try to play it in 3 different places on the fingerboard. This type of exercise really helps develop your knowledge of the fingerboard and your instrument in general. So with this method of practicing scales and melodies that I shared with you today, you'll not only improve technically, but you'll also gain a better understanding of your instrument and of your fretboard, which will lead you to be more creative and colorful in your musical choices. There are 2 very important concepts that you want to think about when you're practicing scales. One of them is your string crossing, and the other is your alternation. String crossing is what we have to do when we play a passage or a scale that spans several strings. And while it may seem obvious, it's actually the source of many of the different mistakes we make, like plucking the wrong string or bumping into another one. What you want to focus on when you're practicing string crossing is making sure that your fingers cross the strings in a smooth manner, not snapping from one string to another like you see here. When you snap from one string to another, it often causes odd accents, and also when your hand has to suddenly move at the last minute, sometimes it goes a little bit too far or not enough, and you end up hitting other strings by accident. So let's take this simple exercise where we're just going to play 4 notes per string and try to smoothly cross your fingers over the strings rather than snapping from position to position. Let's start on the first string. So notice that I'm smoothly transitioning between each string, but also that I'm always beginning each string with my index finger. That happens to be because there's an even number of notes on each string being played. But of course, when it happens in a passage of music or in a scale, if we jump from string to string, it sounds so choppy and accented, like this. Instead of. Now we're going to do something a little bit more difficult and a little bit more realistic, and that is sometimes having odd numbers or strange string crossings happening. All we're going to do is take out one of those notes per string and play 3 notes per string. So we'll start with our index finger, and we'll play index, middle, index. But then now, since we're only playing 3 notes, we land on our middle finger for that second string. So now we'll play middle, index, middle. So that means on the 3rd string, back to index, and so on, right? Every single string we're going to be beginning with a different right hand finger. And since we are talking about alternation, let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into that. Since we're always alternating fingers, there's always room to be a little bit more efficient and a little bit more relaxed. You can imagine how a runner trains to lift their feet off the ground a little bit less or to land on that perfect part of the shoe. In a similar way, that's how we want to train our right hand fingers when they're alternating. One of the most effective ways to practice that efficiency in your right hand when you're alternating between index and middle is to practice prepared, or what results in a staccato sound, meaning a very short note. So let's just take the 2nd string, for instance. I'm going to pluck this open B with my index finger. And right after I pluck it, I'm going to prepare my middle finger on the string, like this. Then, after I pluck that middle finger, I'm going to prepare my index finger. And as you can see, in this cycle that I'm going to keep going here, I'm just preparing the next finger. Another thing you might notice my right hand finger is doing here is after each note I play, my finger relaxes and returns to that ready position. Now let's try applying all of this to that C major scale that we started with in the beginning. Now these are those 2 concepts coming together. We have to string cross, right? We don't want to jump from string to string with our right hand, but rather shoot for really smooth string crossing. Now, this can be a really tedious practice process, but you'll notice that once you start loosening up from the staccato and just letting your fingers move naturally without trying to prepare on the string beforehand, your fingers will just more naturally be in the correct position and will likely be moving a lot more efficiently. You can watch yourself in a mirror or prop up a camera and record yourself doing this, and it's going to make a whole world of difference in the efficiency of your motion and just how relaxed your hands can be. And of course, this translates into the melodies that you're going to be playing later. All right, I hope you're able to apply some of these technical tips and develop a more efficient, relaxed, and controlled right hand technique. And also that you're able to apply these concepts that we talked about earlier with playing that same passage or melody or scale several different places on the fingerboard, so that you really begin to explore and understand the fingerboard and all of the different complexities and color options that the guitar has to offer. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll check out the other videos, and I'll see you next time.